How's it going, guys? And welcome to the Flash Weather Desktop. Tonight, we have a special briefing to discuss concerning Tuesday's winter weather snow threat for Middle Tennessee. So, we're going to unpack what the models are suggesting at this time. We're going to cover probabilities, the likelihood of measurable snowfall occurring in the 36 to 40 hour window. We're only a day and a half from this potential event, and some of you have paid attention to the weather app on your iPhones or Droids and noticed that snowflake icon's been holding steady for a couple of days now, and for good reason. So I'm not all about just taking your cues from an app that's chained to one model and the various runs throughout the day. It doesn't give you the full picture. So that's why I'm here, to take you, behind the scenes as far as what people are discussing in the weather world concerning this event, because it's not going to just impact Middle Tennessee. It's going to cover a wide swath of states, including potentially the Arklatex, Upper Mississippi Valley, all the way up the spine of the Appalachians, Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic and New England. So let's just jump in and just take a look at what some popular sites are saying. We'll start with our local weather office here, and they're not really broadcasting, they're not really pumping or sounding the gong on this. If they were robust, if they were big on the snow chances, they probably would have a tab up here. But if you go to Nashville, you can take a look at what they're thinking in terms of precip odds, and their current take is 70%. That's a rain/snow likely, and they're not even going to say how much we're going to get. They just say rain and snow likely, becoming all snow after 1 p.m. Doesn't say when it's going to stop, but clearly it's going to be a cold, raw day with a high in the upper 30s. This is not far from downtown. I just picked an arbitrary point, so chances are your location will be a couple degrees colder. Since if you're watching this, you're probably outside the urban heating island. So I just wanted to show you that it's not getting a whole lot of play. Local weather stations are going to downplay it because they're always going to play it conservatively, and they're going to take cues from the National Weather Service, and the National Weather Service can have a warm bias at times. Not going to lie to you there. So let's just take an unbiased approach. Easier said than done, or rather easier for me because I don't have much on the line here. Just an amateur, but here's pivotal weather. Actually, let's go to tropical tidbits first. I'm going to scoot this. All right. So here's what the 12Z GFS is indicating. We'll start at hour 6, since we're in standard time now. Anytime you see valid at 0Z, you subtract 6 hours from that. That's Zulu time, so midnight would be 6 p.m. our time here in Middle Tennessee. And it looks pretty wet, and that makes sense. Monday's going to be a warm day. You could see these ISO bars here. There's those dashed lines. When we're in the red, warm air advection. It'll look like this, rather, when we're not far from that 540 decameter line. These are rather heights, I should say. They're height lines. Cold air advection, 1031 high, diving in from Canada into the Dakotas. And we start to feel the effects of this 12Z Tuesday. That's going to be noon, so 6 a.m. Tuesday. Most of us are going to have no problem going to work as it stands now. The commute might be a little wet, but this 6-hour gap here between hour 48 and 54, this is from the 12Z GFS, which ran 9 or 10 a.m. this morning. So this is technically old data. So know that we're within the 2-day time period here, but the 18Z is not far from this. So figured I'd show you the more reliable run historically, with the 12Z being better than the 18Z performance-wise. And you can see that this is going to be a classic rain to snow event from Middle Tennessee. Of course, the big question is, will the cold air catch up? That's a problem. And normally what you like to look for in these setups, you're looking to see if there's any way a system like this won't be progressive and just race on out. And we have a low up here. It's not quite a 50-50 low, but we see something out here in the Atlantic that resembles kind of a blocking ridge. So that's somewhat good. I know like you need to look at more than just one map of one run, but I could look at this and tell you that there is something that's going to not halt this low pressure system, but it's going to allow the cold air to catch up. Essentially, you have this front here. Just imagine where that rain snow transition is. Like there's a cold front moving in through, and it's going to brush up against whatever pattern exists on the East Coast. And if it can slow it down, then speaking in layman's terms, that's how the cold air can catch up. When I say Atlantic blocking, when I refer to a 50-50 low or a ridge that is off coast and well off coast in this case, that's good because we want these systems to slow down so that it's a timing issue. And oftentimes it boils down to that. So, and you could see like we have a pretty decent window. We're hour 60 and we're still in the blue for 6, 8, 10 hours. All right, so that's just one run. Let's just take a look at what the weather's saying. So I always go here first, continental U.S. We'll go regional. Go here, please. Ohio Valley is what we want. All right, there we go. Let's do man. There we go. Winter weather. We'll just cut straight to the snow depth. And the reason why I like to do snow depth, I like the Kuchera ratio, but there's going to be some melting. And I feel like the depth is going to be a little bit lower, a slightly lower amount than what the Kuchera ratio will spit out. And most people out there are just going to care about what is sticking to the ground. And so you could see this is well after the event's taken place. We have many places are over an inch. Anywhere you see blue, that's at least 1 inch, the lighter blues. A couple 2-inch pockets. So this isn't going to be a huge event. This is classic ankle biting snow weather. And this matches up to a lot of analogs. When you look at December slugs, most of them are not big. The big ones are usually early on, like November or late in March. And sometimes you get, February. But usually, for some reason, the coldest months, you don't have the biggest snows in Middle Tennessee / Nationals history. So let's just, for kicks, look at the 18Z and see if it's showing anything different. And you could see the 18Z much more bush. In fact, that's a bullseye right over my location in East Dixon. So I would love for this to verify. I would love to get 4 inches, but it's just not going to happen. So take these amounts with a grain of salt. I would, lean towards the 12Z GFS. Now that's snow depth. So I imagine if I go here, you're going to have higher amounts. Yes, that's just insane. The 10-to-1 ratio, that's a lot. You can see what I mean by the difference between the accumulated snowfall with the 10-to-1 ratio. The Kuchera would be different. But there's going to be a lot of melting on the front end because Monday's going to be a warm day. I mean, we're going to be well above freezing. The high Monday is going to be low to mid 60s for a lot of places. So, so this just doesn't tell you that there's going to be some melting on the front end. So I would say this is a cloud map for now. We could get into Canadian, but I want to show the Euro. This is just set Davidson County, Nashville. You could see this is coming off the Euro, and the Euro is the more reliable run. It's better performance grades than the GFS. So you could see main run 1.2, ensemble 1.7, so it lines up well. Even the minimum shows measurable snow, which is interesting. But I like that that blue line. The ensemble mean is something that I pay attention to. And my thought is just what I found that works a lot of times is when you're approaching a winter weather event and you say you're within a couple days, what is the ensemble mean saying? And then take half of that And that's how you should set your expectations. So in this case, 3/4 of an inch, less than 1, is what I would forecast. Now that's, of course, being conservative. If I'm taking everything verbatim, then I would say, yeah, we're gonna get 2-3 inches. But there's just a lot of factors that come into play that often hinder our snowfall ceiling, if you will. So, but this is the Euro, and I do check this, and the Plume here. This takes a smattering of different models here, and also it provides a mean. And you can see this is very similar to what the Euro is saying. That black line is your mean, and it's between 1 and 2 inches. And you could see how the snow starts to, per this run, this set of data, you're looking at, I would guess it's 20 Z. So late, gosh, this would be late the 10th. I think I got my timing mixed up a little bit. So this is actually going to be late Tuesday, or Tuesday afternoon, I should say. This is going to happen. Okay, yeah, this makes sense. My bad. So this is going to happen during the day on Tuesday, which is going to be very interesting. So this lines up with what I said earlier. It's not going to affect the morning commute on Tuesday, but during the day, during the school day, during the work day, that snow is going to start falling. And how much by the evening rush, I don't know, but I'm curious to see, because 0C is 6 p.m. and we're not quite halfway yet. So it seems like the majority of the snow is going to occur after work hours on Tuesday, maybe linger into Wednesday morning. But that's encouraging to see the Euro and the Plume viewer here. They are at the SREF on the same page. WPC, this is interesting. I've been following them, and they really upped the probabilities. So I'm viewing the odds for 1 inch of snow, and you could see how it starts in Texas. This low really starts to pop some along the front. It's strengthening as we head into throughout the day, or late Tuesday, early Wednesday. And there's a lot of blues for Middle Tennessee and Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky especially. And that's saying there's a likely chance of 1 inch of snow. If we're taking this verbatim, I would say north of 40, along and north of 40. There'll be some outliers south of 40. There always is. The higher elevation south of 40 could be likely for 1 inch. But Cumberland Rim, or rather the Plateau and the Highland Rim, places over 800 feet, they're in better shape. 2 inches, you could see it's not out of the woods. We're not out of the realm of possibility. 30-40% for 2 inches. Not bad. 4 inches, not 0, between 1 and 5. But again, that's interesting to see this. So let's go back here. I think we're done with pivotal weather. I don't want to get into the Canadian and all that stuff yet, but this is where I like to go. Weather Prediction Center, you can Google it. We're now within their 1 to 3 day probability cycle, and just for kicks, let's just see if there's anything day 3. So they are outlining a little strip of anything you see in the blue, that's probability of 4 inches. So that's going to be the mountains in Kentucky. So it's not going to be a huge snow, but this could be, for many of us, the first real chance of, having to work around weather as we plot out our agenda. First time we'll see like a real snow, if you don't count the 1 November here. So I follow this guy, Chris Bailey. He's up in Louisville. He has some good graphics, and he will tell it as it is. So that's why I kind of like to watch him. He could be pretty bullish for his market, but you can see how most of Middle Tennessee is in this greatest chance window for snowfall potential. So believe it or not, we could end up, Nashville could be in a better spot than Clarksville, Hopkinsville, Paducah for once. But I also know that there's a northwest shift potential anytime we talk about these systems. So it's too early to call, it's too early to talk about a first call. This was earlier today, so you can see how the GFS Memphis, Jackson, the I-40 corridor between Memphis and Nashville is in good shape. I think that's a little too far west. But European, you could see it's now that axis is very different. It's more taking kind of along and east of the trace axis and giving more amounts of the plateau, which makes sense. This would be good for southern Middle Tennessee, outside the extreme border camp. Well, depends. I think northeast Mississippi is not in a bad spot for this. Extreme northwest Alabama, you could get in front of games. The NAM, I didn't want to show the NAM because look, the clown map clearly, like, this is ridiculous, but it seems to be like one thing you could take from it is the snow axis, kind of where that precip shield is setting up, the snow accumulations, kind of where the rain and snow line is. With this system, it seems very consistent, as you can see through these maps. This is the Canadian here. So there's continuity. That's the point. We don't know how much snow we're going to get, but there's continuity in the idea that we're going to have a system that is not as progressive as it could be for this time of year. There's a real chance that we get cold air catching up to the precip. As you can see this animation here, I like this one. This is, that's the Canadian, but it seems like the cold air source is going to win the battle here, where the cold air advection now does the warm air advection. We get a front moving in, that clash division of air masses, and here's the European. This was a good one. It's going to start as rain. At some point, temps are going to crash. These rarely work out, especially when we're not in meteorological winter. We are in meteorological winter, but not in calendar winter. But look, I mean, even Dallas, I mean, this is, well, North Dallas suburbs, north of Tyler. A lot of states are going to impact DC and Richmond. Looks good for you too. All right. Well, that's all I have for tonight. Thanks, guys, for watching. Real quick, maybe just in passing, we'll just do a NAM run since we're within. We'll do 18Z NAM. We'll split. We'll kind of choose the middle here. This is the 18Z. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but you could see that there's your cold air advection. You could see it here, moving down to the Dakotas. You could see this kind of this blocking presence off the eastern coast by several hundred miles, and that's good. Oh, did we just go through the whole thing? Sorry. You can see the front. Boom, right there, hour 48. This is the 18Z, so this ran early this afternoon, a couple hours ago. That's a boom. That's a boom. So we will see. I'll keep you posted. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Flash Weather Desktop. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll catch you on the Friday. Peace.